I want to hear cannons. Downfield, pull up, ball to the 5, touchdown Tampa Bay. Mike Evans does it again. Fire the cannons, Bucs.
It's first and goal. That's picked off. That's picked off. And who else? Rondé Barber. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may ride to the Super Bowl with that one.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Throws up with the head. Intercepted. At the 40. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25. 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And then the cannons come. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
How about them Bucs? A Week 2 victory on the road for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, taking down the Detroit Lions. 20-16, your final score. I'll just keep it short and sweet. This may have been Todd Bowles' biggest win as head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Maybe the biggest win of Todd Bowles' coaching career. I know that we could say that about the Eagles' playoff win last year in 2023. He's a postseason coach, but I mean, the Eagles were beat up, right? I think a lot of people were picking the Bucs to kind of pull off the quote-unquote upset that weekend. But Week 2, on the road against the Detroit Lions, especially being as hurt as they were, Evan, I mean, the odds were stacked against the Bucs, and I got to tell you, nothing makes me happier than a show like this, because I picked them to lose, you picked them to lose, Glover Quinn picked them to lose, our buddy Will Rock picked them to lose, and they go out there and they make a statement in Detroit, and they knock off the Detroit Lions 20-16. Once again, your final score. But holy hell, my friend, what a win. And what a feeling right now. Welcome back to the Cannon Fire Podcast. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host from BucsNation.com, Evan Wanish. How you feeling, my friend?
Tell you what, just what you said. I think it's one of the biggest games, in the Todd Bowles, one of the biggest wins in the Todd Bowles era, right? Which is, been 3 seasons now. So, because ahead of the show before we clicked, to go live here, it's, I even mentioned, I was like, that feels like one of their biggest wins since, like 2021, basically. Like, it feels like that was one of the bigger ones. Not only, right, do they come into this game shorthanded, down Luke Goedeke, which we'll talk about if that was a huge negative in this game. Like, yes, you felt the absence of Luke Goedeke. They're down Kalijah Kancey. They're down Antoine Winfield Jr. Not only that, during the game, they go down Vita Vea as well, which right at this second, we don't have an update. All I'll say is it's not good when it's a knee injury and he's automatically ruled out pretty quickly. We'll have an update when we have one. But the resiliency of this team to overcome all that, it's not like you're playing the Washington Commanders this week, right? It's not like you're playing a team that's not very good. And, all right, you survive the injuries against a not so great team. This is one of the best teams in the NFL on their home turf. Just a massive, massive win. And kudos to Todd Bowles for having the team ready to play, finally figuring out Jared Goff. Kudos to Jason Light for building this thing because, look, man, a lot of his guys made plays out there today. Zyon McCollum was fantastic. Tyke Smith made some plays. Jordan Whitehead, who Jason Light drafted and then re-signed. Jordan Whitehead was great. Servase Dennis, another one, great player. Really, the defense, I think, is the talking point of this one. Offense did their job, right? The offense did enough. But the defense, I think, being down the guys they were down, Antoine Winfield Jr., and Vita Vea, the two, right? You're talking about the 2 of the 3 best defensive players they have, right? Levante David, Antoine Winfield Jr., Vita Vea, down 2 of the 3 against one of the best teams in the NFL on the road, and you get the job done. That's massive. I mean, that is just absolutely massive. Couldn't be more proud to be wrong, couldn't be more happy to be wrong. I think betting the Bucs this week might have gone 0 for 4. Don't really care. Because it didn't really matter, at the end of the day, the thing you want the most is the team to win. Now they're 2-0, good chance to go 3-0. So it was a massive, massive victory for this team.
And we talked about this a little bit on the pregame shows. We said, listen, there's a less than 0% chance the Bucs could show up ready to play. We definitely said that they were going to compete, right? Like most people were picking the Bucs. I mean, the spread, when I picked it up this morning, I got the Bucs at +10. It was +7.5 24 hours ago. So, I mean, nobody was picking the Bucs to win this week, nor were they picking them to compete. I think we both knew that they were going to play a close game, and we knew that this team, the expectation, the standard is at a point where when you go into games like this, you know you're going to compete. You know you're going to hang tough. I don't think any of us were really thinking the Bucs were going to get steamrolled. Maybe there was a chance things could get out of hand, but there's a chance like that in any game, right? Look at the Saints and the Cowboys, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well at some point. But the Bucs figured out a way to win this game. Like you said, the resiliency of this team, Todd Bowles having them as prepared as they were, guys stepping up and making plays from the top to the bottom. The defense certainly deserves the props. A $2 super chat here from Eugene Abreu makes a great point. Bucs secondary showed up today. Everybody showed up today. Hats off to Todd Bowles. Hats off to this Buccaneers defense. And this just follows the pattern of also what we've been saying. This Bucs team with Baker Mayfield as the quarterback has exceeded expectations.
Yes.
They've exceeded the expectations of obviously just the casual NFL pundit, but guys like us who talk about the team every week, multiple times a week, like we have a baseline idea of how we think this team is going to play. Most rational, level-headed Bucs fans at the beginning of the year have a baseline expectation of how they expect this team to play, right? Dare I say it? I know it's week 2. This is a huge win. Dare I say it? I think the resiliency shown today and the fact that they stepped up and did not lose this game when there were so many chances for Detroit down there in the final stretch, I think they've turned a corner. I think the Bucs today have proved that they belong in the conversation, at least being able to compete with some of the top teams in the NFL, because, they had to take a couple of steps to play as well as they did today against Detroit, with as down bad as they were on the injury report. And again, a couple of those losses in the middle of the game. But all of that to say, just a great performance. I cannot say enough good things about the Bucs today. A couple of mistakes, obviously, but this was so good of a game. Those things happen. And we'll break them down as we go on. Phones are on as well for today's show. We'd love to hear from you. Autograph fan line 305-224-1968, the meeting ID on your screen. But yeah, all around, just not enough good things to say about what this team put out there today.
And everybody stepped up. It was a little bit of everybody. Whether it was, like I mentioned, Tyke Smith, Zyon McCollum was fantastic. Obviously, getting the interception, which they did. I think the Bucs got away with pass interference on that interception, but hey, it still counts. Christian Izzian had a down day, but has the interception. It's just everybody was sort of stepping up. Everybody played a role. Everybody played their part, and that's what matters. And that's how you're going to win. And against a team like the Lions, and against in that scenario where you're that shorthanded, it was really good. And they have an opportunity here, like you said. I think they sort of put themselves on the map a little bit. I think, right? And if you would have told me last night or whenever that Vita Vea, they're already down Antoine Winfield Jr., they're down this, they're down that, Vita Vea is going to go out of the game as well, and the Bucs or the Lions are only going to score 16 points, I would have been like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, there's no way that this defense is holding the Lions and Jared Goff, a quarterback that is tormented Todd Bowles. There's no way they're holding them to 16 points. Yet they did. The defense was basically bend, don't break, and it worked. And it was definitely very impressive. Very impressive. It shows the depth on this team. It shows the heart on this team. Like I said, they don't quit. It doesn't really matter what the odds are. They don't give up. And very, very impressive. Very, very impressive. Like I said, I think it's far and away probably the best win, I think, in the Todd Bowles era. So it was definitely something to see. And like I said, every little person, stepped up, whether it was a third down play or, Servatia Dennis with a big time tackle on Jahmyr Gibbs to set up the fourth down. There was a lot of good out of this game for the Buccaneers, and a lot of young players playing well.
Let's dive into the offensive side of the football here. We'll start with the quarterback, Baker Mayfield. And I said this week that the Bucs were going to need another superhuman performance out of Baker. And I know that the defense is the talk of the town. They absolutely deserve the credit. But I thought Baker, given what the Bucs had given him, and that's a missing
the stat
right
sheet
tackle,
won't show up, but he was pretty decent.
He was
pretty
about
good.
as good as he possibly could have been. I think he played a perfect first half, aside from the interception, probably the only blemish of that first half. And then, of course, the rushing touchdown later in the game. But passing, He goes 12 for 19, 185 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and he led the team in rushing, 5 carries, 34 yards, 1 touchdown, averaging 6.8 yards a tote. You know, Baker Mayfield showed just as much resilience as the rest of the team, but he showed me today, dude, that he was not going to lose to the Detroit Lions. He put his body on the line. Again, improvisation was needed in the pocket because if he wasn't doing that this week, Aiden Hutchinson probably would have had 12 sacks.
It was ugly out there, you know, especially in the first quarter. Now they did adjust. They did a pretty good job of adjusting to what they were doing. You know, they helped chip a little bit more on Hutchinson, but yeah, not great. And that's one of the biggest criticisms I am going to have of that. You know, of their offensive game plan. I thought their plan to attack Aiden Hutchinson and, sort of take him out of the game wasn't great, but they made the adjustments enough. And Baker had to do some improvisation, but also how about a little cold run for him? Huh? It ends up being a touchdown, breaks the dude's ankles on the one play. And then, they call the run for him. A great block by Graham Barton up ahead. And it was really good. It was really, really good. We did have earlier, we had a $2 super chat from Matt Diaz. That's how about them Bucs? Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about right now, man. It is a good win to go to 2-0. They were 2-0 last year. And just they got to find a way now to keep it going, right? Keep the good times rolling. And right now, though, this is a pretty good football team that again sort of has that next man up mentality, and that's what you have to have. So hopefully, Vita Vea is not out long term, because that would sort of be a little damper on this the good win. Hopefully he's not. We'll see. But yeah, I thought Baker was he Superman? Maybe not, but I think he played darn good. He played darn good football, and he was just what they needed pretty much. Find the open guy. I mean, how about the day Chris Godwin had? Yeah. Mike Evans really wasn't a huge factor in this game, like at all. There wasn't any other receiver in this game that was a huge factor besides Chris Godwin. Baker looked for him early and often, and Godwin was there every time. Godwin was 7 catches for 117 yards and a touchdown. The next receiver was Mike Evans with 3 catches for 42 yards. And then Jalen McMillan had 1, and Rachaad White had 1. So, yeah, I mean, not a whole lot there. And Baker Mayfield was also your leading rusher for today, 5 rushes for 34 yards and a touchdown. So, again, the stat sheet isn't going to wow you, but he did the job today. And that's all you can ask for, especially in this situation with the tackle situation they had, playing up against a player of Aiden Hutchinson's caliber. He could have wrecked that game very early on. And kudos to the Bucs for the in-game adjustments, but also, kudos to the players on the field for, making it work.
Man, Hutch was on his way to wrecking that game early. 3 sacks in the first quarter, and Cody Malk, especially Justin School at the right tackle, they needed some help. So some adjustments were made, but as you said, a couple of big days here in the receiving room. Chris Godwin, the leading receiver for another week in a row. 7 receptions, 117 yards. Also showed out on a 40-plus yard touchdown. I think that was probably the biggest offensive play of the day for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, aside from the 41-yard pickup that they had on that first drive because of the DPI. That set them up in the red zone.
Look, like the Godwin play, that touchdown, that was beautifully drawn up by Liam Cohen. Yeah. That was masterful stuff right there. Sort of, the deception, just being able to do that. That was great. And I thought Liam Cohen called a decent game today. They're trying to run the ball, and it's not working. And again, against this Detroit team, it's tough sledding anyway. But could have been put away much earlier, I think, if they had a better run game. But and also, like, I don't hate the call. Like, I know there was some criticism of it. I don't hate the call on third down there to end up throwing that football. Try to end the football game. Try and end that football game right then and there. I don't hate that, especially the action they had. Where a little bit of the fake toss and the quick little like fake RPO. Yeah. I didn't mind that.
No, I didn't mind it either. Brian Branch was full of plays today. He had that interception against Baker early in the game and then put a hand on it right there, as you said. 70 yards rushing today. That includes 34 of those going to the quarterback, Baker Mayfield, and -4 of those going to the tight end, Cade Otton. They tried to get creative towards the end of the game, and we saw how that went. So, yeah, it's going to be tough sledding against a team like Detroit. We kind of knew that the offense was going to have to improvise. They were going to have to adapt. And again, in my opinion, I think that just shows how Baker at times definitely put this team on his back. The rushing touchdown, I can't get over. I'm going to be gushing about that for the rest of the week. One hell of a highlight. I think that embodies exactly what this guy is all about. He's nothing but heart, right? And he sure as shit wasn't losing to the Detroit Lions this week. So we'll see if the run game can get more consistent down the line. But, the fact that they were able to adapt, they were able to put points up on the board, and aside from that interception, play a relatively clean game on the offensive side of the ball. A performance like today, Evan, shows me that when we talk about these tough stretches that they're going to have, like those last 4 games before the bye week, it's going to be a pretty tough stretch. You got Kansas City coming up. You got a couple of primetime opponents as well. San Francisco is going to be in there as well. Yeah. So
Baltimore, Baltimore lost today though. They're 0-2.
Yeah.
Heck, who knows? But yeah, these are important wins to get. We talked about last week about beating, okay, you're better than Washington. All right, you got to beat Washington because you got Detroit on the way, and then you got Philly or Baltimore and San Francisco and Kansas City. Take care of the teams you're supposed to take care of, but then this is a bonus, basically, right? This is a bonus win here for the Buccaneers, and it's like I said, just like you said, it's a statement win. I think it's a statement win to the rest of the NFC. Hey, if you have the Bucs on your schedule, maybe don't be saying maybe you can get an easy win there, or the Falcons will take the division. Like at this rate, like the freaking Falcons are going to finish 3rd, and the Saints are going to get 1st or 2nd. Like at this point. So, I don't really want to hear much of the Atlanta Falcons, at this rate, but yeah, a massive win by the Bucs and overcoming odds, not just before the game, but during the game too. Like things could have fallen apart after Vita Vea exited that game. That is a massive, massive loss, and being without him and Winfield, that's just, that is a recipe for disaster, but they buckled up. And they got the job done. Whether it was, the run defense, I thought was really good, especially even with Vita Vea leaving the game. I thought the run defense really didn't miss a beat. And again, just really, really impressed.
Before we dive all the way into the defensive performance today, because again, that's the majority of the win today, I want to talk to you about Baker Mayfield. I know that you said he wasn't Superman today, and listen, your opinions about Baker are your own. You get a lot of heat in chat. You get a lot of heat in our comment section, and we've got to address it. I just want to ask you, do you feel any different after today's performance? Did Baker prove anything to you at all about what his ceiling looks like as the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Because, before the season, it was an interesting conversation, and I think for a lot of Bucs fans, it's a question of, Baker Mayfield's good. He can make the plays, but can he win you a Super Bowl? A performance like that today, again, it's week 2. I know it's week 2, but this game is so huge. I think a performance like that today, the way that this team had to adapt and prove that they were resilient against a very tough team on the road, he played well. He played especially well after the interception. Had to bounce back and continue to play well. I know him throwing the rock around the field wasn't as much of a part of the game plan today. Only 19 pass attempts, but what I said about that rush touchdown earlier, nothing but heart. Also, $2 super chat here from Wontons talking about the meeting room. I'm going to fix that while you answer this question about Baker Mayfield. Your thoughts on Big Bake?
Yeah, look, it's I am feeling more and more confident, and honestly, I was feeling confident even from like last week. Last week to me was it was against a bad Commanders defense. Like I acknowledge that, but I thought Mayfield was on the money, last week. And again, I thought he was on the money again for the most part this week. I had the one misfire, which was the interception, not the greatest decision in the world, but it's going to happen, like that's going to happen again this season at some point. So, yeah, I was very impressed by Baker Mayfield, and he's proven, that maybe he can, maybe he can, he's going to prove me to be wrong, that maybe he can, take you where you want to go. I do think, what you basically saw in the Commanders game, is basically the ceiling of Baker Mayfield. But if that's the ceiling, that's fine with me. Like that's cool. Like I don't need him to be like this unbelievable, he was very, very good. And you don't have to I think that's the best thing, right? It doesn't have to be all on his shoulders, I think. And look, the run game improving will help, and hopefully that does improve. But yeah, very impressed by Baker Mayfield. Especially these past two games. Just seems, just controlled in the offense. It seems like he's running, like it seems like it's year 2 or 3 in this Liam Cohen offense. It seems like he knows exactly where the ball is going to go. He's comfortable in it, and I think that's very important. So, and they're not even working out all the kinks yet of this offense. This is still only the second game of the season. That they are not done working it out. So I wouldn't even say this offense is really into full gear yet, and that's how impressive it is. So yeah, I'm very impressed by Baker Mayfield, and he definitely has proved a lot of people wrong. He's starting to prove me wrong as well. People think I just hate Baker Mayfield. Like never said that. And I've praised him, but I've also acknowledged I think there's a certain ceiling with him, right? The thing I might be wrong about is that ceiling. I think maybe that ceiling, instead of being here, maybe it's higher. It's higher than I thought. So, in that sense, yeah, he definitely baked the Lions today, and in some tough circumstances too, with the backup tackle and a pretty good defense on the other side there on the road. So pretty impressive.
On the other side of this quick break, I think we're gonna get the phones turned on. Evan, stand by. I might need you to reconnect. But we're going to figure it out live on the air because I want to hear from you people. The Autograph fan line going to be on next. Don't go anywhere. All right, we are here. We are back on the Cannon Fire podcast. Didn't actually go anywhere, just trying to get the technical side of things figured out. You can see that live broadcasting is alive and well when you've got things like this going on. So we're going to see if we can make some audibles here at the line. But talking a little bit more about audibles at the line, I thought Baker Mayfield, for another week in a row, showed confidence in going up to the line of scrimmage, making plays, making adjustments when they were there to be made. And I think stuff like that from Liam Cohen in this new offensive system has led to him just playing more confident. And again, a deeper understanding of that new offensive system, but a good sense of communication between him and Liam Cohen. I mean, he was just making a lot of good decisions out there today, Evan.
Yeah, he was, and I think that's the like I said, the one bad decision he basically had. Like that was it. Other than that, I wouldn't even say there was many decisions where okay, got away with one there. There was a lot of good, and he did as well of a job as I think he could have with avoiding pressure. Probably as good of a job as I think he could have with avoiding the sacks, avoiding the pressure. And was he perfect at it? No, you're not gonna be. Like when there's that much pressure in your face a lot of times. Look, but he probably survived another 2 or 3 sacks, maybe. And then also was able to scramble for yards. Like I said, he was the team's leading rusher, so he was very good today, and he's exactly what they needed him to be. So I definitely was very, very impressed by him. Like I said, on the road in Detroit, not an easy place for an opposing quarterback to play, and he got the job done.
First call of the show here out of the 626. You're on the Cannon Fire podcast. Who's this?
First call of the show here out of the 626. You're on the Cannon Fire podcast.
What's up, guys? It's Richard T. from the West Coast.
There it is. You got to wait for the delay. How you doing, Richard? How you feeling, my friend? Big win for the Bucs here.
Oh, huge win. I got to eat crow. I have to eat crow because I was with Evan when, in predictions, will the Bucs beat the Lions? Yeah, we know we We know that they can, but will they? History showed that they can't, right? So, going into this game, I was just hopeful, and it wasn't looking pretty with all the injuries to the roster, and Luke Gedeke being ruled out going into the game. That was my biggest concern. I was really afraid that a backup tackle going up against Hutch and Addison, and I hate to say it, but I hate to be proved right when that happened. 5 sacks, guys, but it came at a loss for the Lions, and Bucs prevailed. We went into the Lions den, guys, and we tamed their asses.
Yeah, we
definitely did.
It's been a long time coming again. I think this win today is sweet. One, just because of everything we've talked about, it showed that the Bucs are able to compete at the next level in the NFL when facing up against these top teams. Like they're up there. They can compete without a doubt. But on top of that, I think the Bucs did a really good job today of knocking down the ego a little bit of some of these vocal Lions fans. I don't know if you guys are active in our comments section or our live chat. But good Lord, I mean, our Lions shows always get really good views.
Lions fans are passionate. Lions fans are very passionate. And they somehow find our shows.
Right, yeah. They will definitely, if you're talking about the Lions, they will find your show and they will chime in, which is great. We appreciate that stuff. It always helps out with the YouTube algorithm. But I think the Bucs silenced a lot of fragile egos this week, and I'm happy to see that as well.
Yeah, you can't hate on that for the Lions fans. I mean, it was just a few short years ago for us Bucs fans. We're in the same position. No one looked to us. They still don't look to us. Even after winning a Super Bowl, even with Tom Brady at our quarterback, we felt like we were still never the favored for anything. Maybe the division at the time. And now Brady's gone, and now we have Baker, second year of Baker. We still don't get that respect. So, but you know what? Look, I don't hate the Lions. I'm really glad that we were able to go up there and tame their asses just a little bit. Unfortunately, it did come at a price with Vita Vea going down. I honestly felt a little deflated when that news broke. I didn't see what happened. I don't know. Did you guys see the injury to Vita Vea?
I did not.
Yaya Diaby, I believe, got either tackled into him or fell into his knee.
Okay.
But I think it was a case of friendly fire.
Yaya did a no-no, huh? Eesh. Okay. Well, Chris Godwin. Great, amazing first half. Unfortunately, none of our receivers were really seen in the second half. We really just hung in there, right? And the defense just said, we're going to put this game on our back. And despite no Antoine, no Vita, kudos to Gervasi Dennis. This is like really the first time seeing him play. I feel like he's always injured. And that dude was a missile. Just like shooting down Lions, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, he was bringing the heat out there today. I thought this was kind of his coming out party. Like, we talked a little bit about him before the start of the year. I think he was in the discussion about what's going to happen at the linebacker position now that you don't have Devin White. And, I think between him and KJ Britt, like, he probably had the more explosive day for sure. And I definitely don't think that's the last we're going to see of him. He'll pop out throughout the rest of the year for sure. But great game for him today.
Yeah, no, his speed really showed on this game, and it was quite a pleasure to see. Man, that third down stop he did on that screen. Whew,
yeah.
He just flew in like Superman. That was amazing to watch. Hey guys, thanks for taking my call. I know other people want to get on. Really excited to always call you guys, share my thoughts, share your thoughts, have a little combo. Other than that, hopefully I'll get to call you guys next week. And go Bucs. Down those Eagles, huh?
Richard, we appreciate you, my friend. Go Bucs. Good talking to you.
Peace.
From the West Coast. All right, we have got whole line filled with callers here. I wanted to say really quickly, though, Gervasi Dennis was great today. Jordan Whitehead led the team in tackles yet again.
Yes.
I'm so glad this guy is back. He is a tackle machine. He was everywhere out there today.
I thought he was probably their best defender today. Yeah, he was really, really good today. I thought him, McCollum, and Dennis were really, really good. And yeah, I thought all three of those guys really helped. And look, I mean, when you got that many guys down, especially, I think the Bucs are lucky that they elevated two defensive linemen from the practice squad. What would have happened if they hadn't done that? If you hadn't had a guy like Mike Green, CJ Brewer in there who also contributed. So yeah, I thought Jordan Whitehead was probably their best defender, but again, there's a whole list of guys you can run through and be like, yep, that guy played well. Yep, that guy stepped up. Yep. So, yeah, really impressive by the secondary as a whole and the defense as a whole, but more specifically, thought Whitehead was really, really good.
757, you're on the Can of Fire podcast. Who's this?
Hey, this is Wontons.
Wontons, what's up, man?
Go Bucs. Hey, you know, like last year, I was calling him third down Godwin, but bro, he was just playing his game off today. Even though Evans didn't have that many catches, he's on my fantasy team, so I was a little let down by that as well. So, but we got the win. Number 8, Dennis, I can't say his first name, but bro, he, like the other guy said, he came in like a missile, and the most important play is that third down. The other thing is you look at the stat sheet, Bucs are looking like they should have lost the game, but, Baker, you have to hand it to him. He adapted and overcame that rush. Moving his legs and getting us those first downs and obviously that touchdown. That was huge. I mean, just watching the game, and it was a nail biter, right? Down in the fourth quarter, they get the ball back with, a few seconds left. But that's what football is about. This is football. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. Those are the games you love to see. Can't forget about a big-time play down the stretch there. Christian Izien with the interception. I know it was just kind of a duck by Jared Goff, but that's a big-time play. I know the Lions end up getting the ball back, but the Bucs hang on to the football. They waste that much more time, and you just set yourself up to not have to do as much, or at least not have your defense do as much down the stretch. Evan, that's exactly the kind of game you want to play against those teams. I mean, obviously, best case scenario, you win by 10 points. But when you know it's going to be a battle, the fact that they adapted as much as they did, Baker was able to make plays using his legs once again. He had to do that this week. Other guys had to step up. The defense as a whole stepped up. I thought Todd Bowles, with his game plan this week against Jared Goff for the first time, stepped up. And, just a lot to feel good about after a win like that.
Yeah, and it was a lot of good adjustments. Like I mentioned, even with the protection against Aiden Hutchinson, he had 3 sacks in the first quarter, and they just didn't really seem to have an answer. And then he sort of went a little bit quieter. And again, he still had 2 more sacks. But I think they did a better job of adjusting to that on the fly. I think they tried to see if they could get away with having him one-on-one with Justin School, because it would just make things so much easier. They couldn't. They really couldn't, and they found that out the hard way. But yeah, I think they made adjustments throughout the game. And again, I think Todd Bowles made great adjustments with how to defend against Jared Goff. And this is a guy who has given the Bucs so many fits over the years, and even in the loss has destroyed the Bucs. Like we mentioned against the Rams or whatever, when Goff was there, threw for over 500 yards. So the fact that they played this well against a guy like that, were able to adjust on the fly with guys that aren't always in the starting lineup, was very, very impressive.
And how good did it feel to beat the team that knocked us out of the playoffs last year?
I'm sure these guys had a crap ton of motivation going back to the same building, where their season ended last year, and in the close game. I'm sure they didn't forget that all week.
And not just once, but twice last year. So, me going into this game, I wanted to be optimistic, but I was also being skeptical. But I knew we could pull it out. Like I said, I would like to see Evans have a couple more touchdowns, but that's just for your fantasy football needs. But, we got to spread it out, spread the ball out. We've got so many weapons on the offense right now. And what a game. I just want to say it again, go Bucs, man. And on the sideline here. This is not a good. This has been the first season without my brother. You know, he passed away last year, so I know he was watching from heaven, bro, because he was like, "That's the Bucs wins you love to watch, bro." So go Bucs.
Really sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, Wontons, we appreciate you calling in, man. Always appreciate the insight, and should be some more wins like that here down the road for this team.
Let's go.
I think it's going to be an exciting year, my friend. Go Bucs.
Let's go. Go Bucs.
Yes, sir.
Talk to you guys later.
Yeah, thanks for the call.
Yeah, the revenge tour rides again. I know we kind of throw that term around a lot. 2022, we were using it with Brady and the Bucs. You know, it kind of like the Rams, though. I think we could compare it to in 2021, the Rams beat the Bucs in the regular season, ended their season. In 22, Brady and the boys get the job done. They were going after the Saints, got the sweep that year. The revenge tour rides again. I like it. I know it's maybe overused, but I do appreciate it. Let's get to our next call here. They've been on hold for a little while. We appreciate you. From the 941.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, man.
How you doing, man? Who's this?
Oh, this is Mike. Man, who's this?
Mike, what's up? How you feeling about that win?
I just want to say this. Woo! Go Bucs!
That's it.
Hell yeah. That's all we needed to know. Mike, anything else, my friend?
Ciao, brother, I'm out.
All right. Short and sweet. I like it.
I mean, what more do you need to say? You know,
Yeah, you don't have to say much more.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that a win like this could make you feel, and I think that right there encompasses just about everything. We were talking a little bit more about the defense earlier, Jordan Whitehead being such a big asset in that secondary, but I wanted to get your thoughts on Jamel Dean and Zyon McCollum. Props to Zyon McCollum. Basically, one of the first plays for the Buccaneers defense in this game is a big-time interception. I know that there was a lot of back and forth about the defensive pass interference that wasn't called on Christian Zyon. Our buddy Glover Quinn said that was not pass interference. So I guess the jury is still out. A lot of Lions fans are going to be upset about it, but regardless, they force a couple of takeaways today, a Zyon McCollum interception being one of them. But your thoughts on Jamel Dean and Zyon stepping up today?
I thought Dean had an up and down day. I thought he was okay. I thought McCollum was probably the best corner they had today. I thought he was better than Dean. Not to say Dean was bad. I just thought he was more up and down. McCollum almost had a second one as well. Had the ball ripped away from him. Pretty good play by Amon-Ra St. Brown. Almost had that other one too. He was really impressive today. Made a couple of really nice plays, and it's good to see because he's a guy that they're obviously relying upon, especially on the defensive side of the football. So it was definitely good to see him step up in those big moments, starting the game off quick, right, with a turnover instantly right out of the gate. Then that was pretty massive. So, I thought very positive signs for Zyon McCollum, and thankfully he was able to play. Right, he was sort of questionable if he was going to play or not. He ends up suiting up and able to go. So, very impressed by Zyon McCollum, and I thought Jamel Dean did his job, but I think the headline here is going to be the job that Zyon McCollum did, especially when he's making those splash plays and doing the things well that this team needs him to do. Yeah. So I was pretty impressed by him.
Yeah, I thought they were both players coming into this one who needed a strong game, but Zyon McCollum especially, I think this just shows the development and the maturity that he's going to continue to get over the course of a season, especially as your starting cornerback too. Jamel Dean, I do think of that big, I think it was 58 yards to Jamison Williams. He kind of got cooked there. Didn't have any help over the top. So I don't know what the defensive game plan was on that play in particular, but it led to a big-time play and not a great highlight for Jamel Dean. But, really, I thought those guys played well for the most part, and all of that factors into Todd Bowles' game plan, how they were able to suppress Jared Goff, if you will. I know that he got his yards today, but let's face it, I mean, he was not the reason the Lions were putting up points today. 34 for 55, 307 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns on the day. To be honest with you, 55 pass attempts. I think after losing Vita Vea, I was very surprised to not see the Lions run the football more, especially because later in the game, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, those guys usually get going against Tampa.
Yeah, I was a little surprised as well. It seemed like they just got so pass happy, and hey, I mean it played into the Bucs' favor. which I mean I understand like with a depleted secondary like the Bucs had, but once Vita Vea goes out, it feels like that's something where you just gotta sort of ad lib, right? Like you just gotta kind of adjust on the fly there, and yeah, they didn't quite do that. Was a little strange, but again, the Bucs were pretty good at clogging up the run lanes. The Lions didn't really have too many massive runs. I know they had the one on fourth down. Gibbs, as long was 24, 13 carries for 84 yards, 6.5 yards average. That's good, but like I said, it's kind of skewed with that one being 24 yards. David Montgomery, they really limited him, 11 carries for 35 yards. So they did a pretty good job of limiting the damage he did, which he really hurt the Rams, especially in overtime last week. So, yeah, I thought they did a good job, I guess a good enough job of defending the run that the Lions felt like their best course of action was just to keep passing the ball, and the Bucs secondary was up to the task.
Yeah, and that's a statement in itself, considering the absence of Vita Vea, the other guys that are missing in this defensive unit. And they did a really good job throughout the course of the game. Jahmyr Gibbs, as you mentioned, 13 carries for 84 yards. I think a lot of those came at the end of the game, third, fourth quarter, especially fourth quarter. That one
once Vea went out, they did try it a little bit. It's just And
then the big fourth down conversion run you had mentioned, I think damn near a 30-yarder. So a good game for the Buccaneers run defense today. And I got to say, I like what we saw given, again, everything that they had stacked against them. Let's get to another call here from the 727. Who's this?
Hi, my name is David.
David, what's
up,
man?
David?
Hey, first-time caller. Amazing game. I never expected the Bucs to do so well over there. I think a lot of people step it up in a really big way. I think Gaines made a awesome game holding the D-line. McCollum, also amazing game. It was really nice to see Savatier Dennis playing a lot better than KJ Britt played the last game. So overall, I think it was a really awesome performance. And it makes me wonder, how things are going to be once we have all the starter players playing together.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the fact that all of these guys are missing and you're playing one of the best teams in the NFC and you're able to step up and compete, that just gives me a great feeling about the mentality. The standard that this team has set for themselves is in a really good spot right now. So I'm excited to see, obviously an update on Vita Vea. That's what I want to see first and foremost. Hopefully we can get an idea on when he'll be back in the lineup. Hopefully Luke Gedicke's back in the lineup next week for Tampa Bay. Antoine Winfield, couple of weeks will go by. We'll wait and see. But the latest about Vita Vea, he does have a brace on his right knee, but he's standing up and walking around. So we will wait and see any updates that we get we'll have for you guys. But David, any final thoughts before we let you go, my friend?
No, I just like to say that I love your podcast. I watch every week, and go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate you hanging out and supporting the show. We'll talk to you soon. Go Bucs. Sorry, I got to ramble as I, disconnect people. I always feel bad because I don't want to leave an awkward silence or cut somebody off in the middle of a Go Bucs. So I got to, all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it's like I said, we await an update, from the thing with Vita Vea, hoping that, I mean, you're just hoping at this point it's not a long term, it's not something that's going to keep him out, the season or 10 plus weeks. Like you're hoping. It seems like he's probably going to miss some time. I mean, to me, it wasn't great that he gets ruled out immediately. He's got the brace on his knee. It's a big guy, right, for having a knee issue. So it's not great. But you're hoping that it's something that they can hopefully manage and sort of navigate, because now you're looking at potentially a couple of weeks here where you're gonna maybe without Vita Vea and Antoine Winfield Jr. So hopefully Kalijah Kancey is getting closer to getting back. I'm not sure how close he is, but we'll see as we await an update there. If we don't have any update for you during the show, we'll be talking to you, or midweek show, we'll be discussing it, I'm sure. So yeah, but again, this team did just enough on offense and defense to keep the Lions at bay. And I don't want to keep on talking about the defense, but with so many guys stepping up against the quarterback that has just had their number in the past. It's so impressive, especially on the road. Very, very, very impressive. And this defensive performance is something to where, was it the flashiest? No, they didn't go out there and dominate with 6 sacks and this and that, but 2 turnovers. And what did I say? On the pregame show, I said, I think the turnover battle is going to be something massive. I said, you look at the end of this game, I said, the team that wins the turnover battle, I think is going to win this game. The Buccaneers won the turnover battle this week. So I thought the turnovers were going to be huge, and they were, especially that second turnover where the Lions would have gotten points. They would have kicked the field goal there had not been for that interception. If they do kick the field goal, then they only need a field goal to beat the Bucs. You're probably talking about a completely different outcome here. So, clutch turnover at that, and I thought it was just a masterful job, masterful game call by Todd Bowles, where they didn't generate like the best pressure. Right, it wasn't like they were constantly in Jared Goff's face, but they did just enough to be able to win this football game.
I thought the red zone defense was the biggest reason they won. We've talked a lot up until this point about the guys who have stepped up, the ways that they stepped up, the plays they were able to make, the turnover battle obviously being huge. But the Buccaneers' red zone defense forcing Detroit to settle for field goals. The Lions did not score a touchdown until the third quarter of this game. And when you look at the box score, they had 463 total yards of offense, 26 first downs, and they only scored 16 points. Let's not forget, it was kind of a war attrition at the end of the first half. If you remember, it was a pretty wild sequence the final 6 or 7 minutes of that second quarter. There were a couple of plays to be made, but one of them was within the last minute, the Lions were driving down the field. They were putting themselves in scoring position. Still could have taken the field goal. They didn't really decide what they wanted to do, and they end up taking a penalty for too many men on the field with less than 10 seconds left to go in the half. Time runs out, and
they don't kick a field goal. That ends up being large.
Instead of 3 points, they get 0 points. So you're talking about the potential of that field goal with the Christian Izien interception. If they get that field goal before the first half ends, I mean, again, just like you said, you're talking about a missed field goal, 3 points instead of 6. I mean, 3 points instead of nothing, dictating a lot of things about the way that this game played out. I don't think Detroit, I definitely don't. I mean, maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think Jared Goff throws the football 55 times if they get that field goal before the end of the first half there.
And look, I didn't think throwing the ball 50 plus times was going to be a recipe for success for either club. Just because I forget I was either Glover Quinn or the other show that we had done where, you throw the ball 30 times, you throw the ball 40 times. The more you throw it, the more likely bad things are going to happen, right? So throwing the ball 55 times is just not going to work. I mean, I don't know. It seemed like the Lions were just hell-bent on trying to, force the ball. And I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown got his, he had a nice bounce back day, but at the end of the day, the Bucs were able to limit it, right? They weren't giving up the massive plays. I mean, really, the biggest play of the day was the Jameson Williams play, which was the second drive, which was basically the Lions' first drive, because they only had one play on that first drive. So that was the biggest play of the day, I believe, for the Lions, and they didn't really get many chunk plays, many big splash plays throughout. And I think the big thing is when you're doing that, right, and there is no splash plays, and the offense can avoid turning the ball over, that takes the crowd out of it. And I think that's a big key here as well. The Buccaneers were able to take that, that raucous Detroit crowd, and it was rocking early on, able to quiet them down. And I think that helps your offense even more with that. And momentum's a real thing. And look, Detroit does the 4th and 12, the fake punt. That could have really been disastrous, right? That could have started it, right? So that's a big momentum shift. That got the crowd back into it. That crowd was kind of quiet, but the Buccaneers didn't let them phase them. And that is a massive testament, to this football team.
Yeah, and that drive was kind of the start of that sequence of events I had talked about where, the Lions have that entire drive to do what they do. And it's a fake punt pass conversion after probably up until that point, I think the best defensive drive the Bucs had. And then on that same drive, it's a 4th and 2 conversion. And then between that and the end of the drive, you have a drop Jordan Whitehead interception. There was a late whistle on an incompletion. It looked like Zyon McCollum was going to get maybe a scoop and score or the Bucs were going to force a takeaway there. Then you get a huge stop, right? Lions ultimately end up getting the football back, and that's when they march down the field, run out of time on the too many men penalty, take the 10-second runoff, and they do not score those 3 points. So everything mattered today, but it's just, you got to love the way things have shaked out against a really good team. And I think we'll wrap it up here. Last call for phone calls on the Autograph fan line, 305-224-1968. If you got any calls, get them in now. Got to talk about our boy, Money.
Oh, man.
Baby.
I mean, a week after nailing a 56-yarder, he goes out there. And I think one of the big things you could say about this offense, that first drive, right? Okay, you get the pass interference penalty, you go down the field. They got to start scoring touchdowns there. They got to start scoring touchdowns in the red area. They have to be better at it. But when you got Money Mac, it doesn't matter as much.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a big-time game for him. It's been a big-time season so far just because of the little aura of doubt that crept in after those misses in the preseason. And again, you've got reason to be a little suspicious as Bucs fans. We've been through the kicking carousel before. We've had these issues in the past. But when you've got a guy that can nail him like Chase McLaughlin has so far this season, he's picking up right where he left off. The best statistical season for a kicker in Tampa Bay Buccaneers history in 2023 for Chase McLaughlin. And he's continuing that pace here and really putting the Buccaneers in a good position to where you can rely on your kicker. You can rely on your kicker with a leg, because it was 56 yards and then some. And that's exactly why they brought in McLaughlin in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like the confidence, even after 1 week, I feel like that 56-yarder last week was like the exhale, right? Because even I was like, oh, 55-yarder, I was like, it's indoors, he'll make it. It's not an issue. Chase McLaughlin is on his way to, if he can keep this up for a few more seasons, he's got a nice little contract to do it. If he can keep this up for a few more seasons, you're going to be talking about him as possible, best Bucs kicker maybe ever. Because he's been that good. He's been that good for them. So, and I don't think as far as kicking goes, you don't have to win a champion. You don't have to win a championship. It'll help, but they don't have to win a Super Bowl. McLaughlin didn't win a Super Bowl and Suck Up and Gramatica did. That doesn't really matter. But McLaughlin is on his way. It's very impressive. And what a signing, by Jason Light last offseason, them being able to lock him back up. And this win again is just it shows you just how good of an executive Jason Light is, because he's building this roster and these guys are just stepping up all over the place. Richard T in the chat does say, I give up on Camarda. Not a great day. And this is after the Bucs were Todd Bowles was publicly, in a press conference, not happy with Jake Camarda after the preseason. He was not happy with the punts. And so, I think Jake Camarda, while it didn't really cost him today, they need him to come up in some spots, and he didn't. So it hasn't really truly cost them yet. But as the season goes on, you're going to need that guy to be better. Yeah,
and consistency is always going to be something that's mentioned when you talk about the performance of a younger player, especially a guy like Jake Camarda. I know he's a specialist. He's your punter, for God's sake, but he had such an impressive rookie season. His misses were few and far in between, and a lot of the times they could be chalked up to rookie mistakes, but his good was effing awesome. He was great. Yeah. So I think, I don't want to say fall from grace, because again, we're only 2 games into this season, but you're going to need him to step it up a little bit here, especially after being called out by the head coach there. I want to talk to you about one more thing before we wrap up here, and let's take a look around the NFC South. The Falcons do not play until Monday night. They'll play the Eagles. The Panthers are the Panthers. The 2 teams in the NFC South right now that seem like they're going to make the most noise are the New Orleans Saints and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I got to tell you, these 2 teams have gone back and forth, seemingly trying to outdo each other with the quality of wins in the first couple of weeks of the season. Now, New Orleans, a big-time victory today, 44-19 against the Cowboys. And, this is the Cowboys. I think any given Sunday is an expression with them, but it could probably go beyond that when you talk about the Dallas Cowboys and their inconsistency. But at the end of the day, last week, it was against the Panthers when they hang 47 points. This week, you're on the road, I believe.
Yep, you are.
Yeah,
Dallas' home opener.
44-19. The Cowboys played so bad they benched Dak Prescott before the end of the game. Cooper Rush comes in to wrap it up. Are the Saints for real? Is this fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice? I probably am just short-sighted at this point. I don't know what the case is, but every time the Bucs this season, they're 2-0, and they've had 2 very impressive wins. And in the back of my head, I'm still thinking about New Orleans because they damn near put up 50 points 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I mean, obviously they're not going to be able to keep that pace up, but so that's what I'm curious to see, like when that comes down, when those averages come down, what's it going to be? They might be, I don't know if they're going to win the division, but I do think they might be better than I thought they would be. It seems like Clint Kubiak, is making a pretty big difference. Derek Carr is playing pretty well. Also, yeah, it seems like, I mean, the Falcons, like we talked about earlier, the Falcons play the Eagles tomorrow, and then they play the Chiefs next week. Like they're staring down the barrel right now of 0-3, because they're playing 2 pretty good football teams, and it won't be easy for them. So yeah, I mean, you're looking at 2 teams. The Panthers lost again today. They've scored a combined 13 points in 2 games. I don't think that's very good. So I mean, they're done. And yeah, the Saints look like a pretty decent team. Now they play Philly next week. New Orleans does. So it'll be interesting to see how they fare in that matchup. But yeah, the Bucs and Saints play for the first time on October 13th. So a little less than a month away. And it could be a pretty interesting matchup.
Yeah. Week 1 against Carolina, again, I hate giving New Orleans credit. That's not what I'm trying to do. I think we're just trying to
Today was much more impressive than last week.
Right, but
today opened my eyes a bit more.
Even then, last week, week 1, 47 points on the Carolina Panthers. Who cares, right? But Dallas, I don't know what the expectations were for Dallas, especially after Dak Prescott getting his deal. They seem to like Mike McCarthy over there as head coach. They want him to take a step with that team, but regardless, in the regular season, they usually do fairly well. They're usually one of the better teams in the NFC. A lot of people expect them to play in the postseason. This kind of win for New Orleans is par for the course. Like, they get wins like this every year, which is, again, why I'm thinking about it so much, because the Saints, even when they're as terrible as they are, even when they were as bad as they were in 2023, very tough first half of the season for them, they were still finding ways to win football games. They've always found ways to win football games against teams that they probably shouldn't be.
Yeah, they've never been truly like bad, right? Like they haven't even like late. Like it's not like, oh, they only won 4 games this year. Like no, like they've always been in it.
Yeah, fuck the Saints. But if they look good against Philly next week, are we going to continue to have this conversation? Like, are the Saints going to be as big of a surprise as the national media is hoping they are after their game today? Like, I don't know. I was completely sold on Derek Carr being a bum and this team having kind of, the ship being sailed on Dennis Allen and having control of the locker room. But I don't know what to think.
Yeah, I mean, Alvin Kamara was, 20 carries for 115 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, Derek Carr was 11 of 16, 243, 2 touchdowns and a pick. I mean, he was good, not like, crazy. But yeah, I think that the Saints are pretty. Like I said, I think they're better than maybe we originally thought. So that's basically our NFC South wrap up, right? Which we did last week as well. So we still have, like I said, the Falcons play tomorrow night. They got a tough challenge in the Philadelphia. So. We'll see how that goes, but the Bucs got to worry about themselves first, right? It doesn't really matter what the rest of the division is doing if you don't take care of business. And 2 weeks in a row now, especially this week, the Bucs have certainly took care of business.
Yeah, we're not sitting here talking about the Saints. I know it is our NFC South roundup, if you will, but let's focus on the win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 2-0 to start the 2024 season. You got to keep consistently playing well. These are important wins, but you got a couple of opponents coming up here that you need to stack some wins against. I mean, you're taking on a Broncos team next week that not a lot of people are going to be picking to beat you. You have to continue to play well. You have to hold yourself to the same standard that they held themselves to today next week against Denver. Because if you come out playing against Denver like you did today, you'll probably win by 20.
Yeah, it's it's one of them where you gotta watch the letdown, right? Because coming off of a win, where nobody thought you were gonna win, it's a high, you could be due for a letdown. But yeah, you gotta take care of your business, right? You can't be overlooking anyone. And the Denver Broncos are still that. So yeah, I mean, I think the Bucs are better, but Denver's still, they're still a professional team, and anybody can beat anybody. Like I said, the Raiders just beat the Ravens today. I don't think the Raiders are better than the Ravens, but it can happen. So the Patriots beat the Bengals last week. It can happen. So the Bucs got to be ready, and hopefully they definitely will be.
Yeah, big win for the Packers today as well. Really, I did terrible on my picks this week, I think. But it's the name of the game, man. You can't win them all. Luckily for the Bucs, they have so far in this 2024 campaign.
Yeah.
2-0 so far on the young season, and a really great feeling to knock off a Lions team of that caliber, especially one that has given them problems in the past. But ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this week's episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Thank you to everybody who called in, left a super chat, hung out in the chat room, left a thumbs up, potentially subscribed to the channel. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Turbo Duran, Dub, Buck Wild, the moderator holding it down, Ollie Abrams, Brandon Palomo, Bat W, MK, our good buddy Mikey Kelly, The Blessed, Brandon Palomo, who I did already say. I know we got more people in here. Ed Gein, BJ stopping by, Not DIR Sale, Number Block 1, Tampa Born, Jay Santos, Kenny In, Saw to Not. And there's plenty of others, but anybody else that I may have missed, thank you guys once again for catching us live. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And of course, Tampa Bay Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL and check out his written work at BucsNation.com. What have you got this week?
Yeah, going to be reacting to the game. All post-game stuff should be on BucsNation.com right now. But for me personally, going to be reacting, just checking out, certain things of what people are saying on Twitter and reacting to it. It's a series that I call The Day After. So it'll be posted tomorrow. And then, yeah, moving on to Broncos week towards the end of the week. So, yeah, very busy week here at BucsNation.com as well as CFP. We will have content coming out on the YouTube channel all this week as well.
Yeah, a lot of great content planned for you guys. A lot to talk about this week. It should be a fun one. Last but not least, you can find myself, Instagram and Twitter at Rhettakus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. But that's the show. Thank you once again to everybody who hung out with us live, celebrating this Buccaneers win. We'll have more news for you and hopefully injury updates later on this week. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off for my co-host, Evan Wanish. We will talk to you in the next one. Until then, and as always, go Bucs.